Sometime in the life, you don't need to be like this. And me, I always want to.
Lights shine brighter than ever, headlines dominate every screen, and millions of fans wait for one name to step onto the pitch: Kylian Mbappé. For most players, winning a FIFA World Cup is the dream of a lifetime. Mbappé achieved it before turning 20. But sometimes,
a player, great manager, great president, big legend, friends.
Because once you've touched football's highest peak, the world no longer celebrates what you've done. It demands to know what you'll do next. Every sprint is analyzed. Every goal is expected. Every missed chance becomes global news. Wearing the French shirt is no longer just an honor. It is a responsibility carried in front of billions of eyes. But here's what makes this story so remarkable. Behind the speed, the trophies, and the superstar image is a young boy who once dreamed of becoming exactly the player the world now expects him to be. His journey has been filled with unforgettable victories, painful heartbreaks, impossible expectations, and moments that have shaped an entire generation of football. And now, with another World Cup chapter waiting to be written, one question remains. Can Kylian Mbappé continue chasing greatness when the entire world expects nothing less than history? To understand that, we have to return to where everything truly began. As the dream of another World Cup begins to take shape, the story naturally takes us back to a quiet suburb just outside Paris. Long before the roaring stadiums, the flashing cameras, and the weight of a nation's expectations, there was a young boy in Bondy with a football at his feet and a dream that seemed far bigger than his surroundings. Football wasn't simply something Kylian Mbappé enjoyed, it was woven into his everyday life. His father, Wilfried Mbappé, coached youth football and believed that talent meant little without discipline. His mother, Faiza Lamari, was a professional handball player who understood the sacrifices required to compete at the highest level. Their home wasn't filled with promises of fame. It was filled with hard work, structure, and belief. From an early age, Kylian stood out. His speed caught everyone's attention, but it was his hunger that truly separated him from other children. After training sessions ended, he often wanted to keep playing. Every match became another opportunity to improve, another step toward a dream that only he seemed able to fully imagine. Like millions of children around the world, he admired football's biggest stars. Cristiano Ronaldo was more than an idol. He represented the future Mbappé wanted for himself. Coaches quickly realized they were watching someone special. Teammates struggled to keep up with his pace, while opponents found themselves chasing shadows. Yet those closest to him understood that natural ability would never be enough. The road to professional football is filled with gifted players whose dreams disappear before they ever reach the biggest stage. For Mbappé, the next challenge wasn't proving he had talent. It was proving that talent could survive the relentless demands of elite football. And that test was about to begin. Leaving Bondy behind was more than a change of scenery. It was the moment when childhood dreams met the unforgiving reality of professional football. Every training session became tougher. Every opponent stronger. Mbappé joined Monaco's academy, knowing that nothing would be handed to him. Surrounded by some of France's brightest young talents, he had to prove himself every single day. Yet the pressure never seemed to slow him down. If anything, it pushed him to play with even greater confidence. Then came the breakthrough. But here's where things became even more incredible. The 2016-17 season turned Monaco into one of Europe's biggest surprises, and Mbappé became the face of that remarkable journey. Goal after goal, match after match, he dismantled some of the continent's strongest defenses. His breathtaking performances in the UEFA Champions League against elite clubs convinced the football world that a new superstar had arrived. Suddenly, every major club wanted him. Real Madrid admired him. Manchester City monitored him. Europe was no longer asking who Kylian Mbappé was. The only question now was where he would play next. For an 18-year-old, the attention was overwhelming. Every decision made headlines. Every interview was analyzed. Every performance carried expectations that most players wouldn't face until the peak of their careers. Then came the biggest decision of his young life. Instead of following the path many expected, Mbappé chose to stay in France and join Paris Saint-Germain. It wasn't just a transfer, it was a statement. The boy from Bondy was returning home, but this time, he wasn't arriving as a promising teenager. He was arriving as the player expected to become football's next global icon. And with a World Cup just around the corner, the biggest stage of his life was waiting. The move to Paris had changed everything. Kylian Mbappé was no longer just one of football's brightest young talents. He was now expected to lead one of the world's biggest clubs while carrying the hopes of an entire nation. But even with all the attention surrounding him, nothing could prepare him for what was about to happen in the summer of 2018. France arrived at the FIFA World Cup with enormous expectations. The squad was packed with world-class players. Yet many questioned whether such a young team could handle football's biggest stage. Mbappé, still only 19 years old, wasn't expected to carry the tournament. He was simply expected to learn from it. Instead, he became one of its biggest stars. From the opening matches, he played without fear. While defenders hesitated for a split second, Mbappé was already gone. His explosive speed, fearless runs, and calm finishing gave France a completely different dimension. Every performance seemed to announce that football had entered a new era. Then came the match that changed everything. Against Argentina, in the round of 16, Mbappé delivered a performance the football world would never forget. His electric pace tore through one of the tournament's strongest defenses, earning a crucial penalty before scoring twice in a thrilling victory. Overnight, he was no longer just France's rising star. He had become a global phenomenon. But the story didn't end there. With every round, the pressure increased. Expectations grew heavier. Yet Mbappé continued to play with the same confidence that had defined him since his days in Bondy. He wasn't intimidated by the moment, he embraced it. When France reached the final against Croatia, the entire world watched history unfold. Mbappé scored on football's biggest stage, helping France secure its second World Cup title. At just 19 years old, he became one of the youngest players ever to score in a World Cup final, joining a list of legends that most players only dream of reaching. The celebrations were unforgettable. France had found its new hero, and the football world believed it was witnessing the beginning of a legendary career. But success brings a challenge that few people talk about. Winning the World Cup was never going to be the hardest part. The real test was living with the expectations that came after it. Winning the World Cup should have lifted every burden from Kylian Mbappe's shoulders. Instead, it placed an even heavier one there. The young boy from Bondy was no longer chasing greatness. In the eyes of the football world, he had already reached it. Every season that followed came with a new expectation, not to improve, but to prove that 2018 at Paris Saint-Germain, the spotlight grew brighter than ever. Every match was played under global attention. Every goal made headlines. Every quiet performance sparked criticism, but the pressure extended far beyond club football. Whenever Mbappé wore the blue shirt of France, he carried the hopes of an entire nation. Supporters didn't just believe he could change a game, they expected him to. In the biggest moments, millions looked toward him before anyone else. That kind of expectation can inspire greatness. It can also become exhausting. As endorsements, interviews, and worldwide fame continued to grow, so did the comparisons. Some called him the future of football. Others wondered if he could eventually surpass the legends who inspired him. Every achievement immediately led to another question. Could he win another World Cup? Could he conquer the Champions League? Could he become one of the greatest players in history? The problem was that expectations never stopped growing. For most players, one brilliant season is enough to earn admiration. For Mbappe, brilliance became the minimum standard. If he scored once, people expected two. If he won one trophy, they asked why he hadn't won another. Success had become normal, and normal no longer impressed anyone. Yet through all the noise, Mbappe rarely allowed the pressure to change the way he played. He continued attacking defenders with the same fearless confidence that had carried him from the streets of Bondy to football's biggest stadiums. The 2022 FIFA World Cup in Qatar wasn't just another tournament. It was an opportunity to defend France's crown and cement Mbappe's place among football's all-time greats. Match after match, he delivered. His pace terrified defenders, his finishing remained clinical, and once again, France marched toward the final. Then came the night that would define an entire generation. Facing Argentina in one of the greatest World Cup finals ever played, France found themselves on the edge of defeat. For long stretches, it looked as though the trophy was slipping away. The dream of becoming back-to-back world champions was fading before everyone's eyes. But Mbappe refused to surrender. In the space of just a few breathtaking minutes, he scored twice to drag France back into the match. Just when the pressure seemed impossible, he stepped forward again in extra time and completed a remarkable hat trick with another ice-cold penalty. On football's biggest stage, with billions watching, he delivered one of the greatest individual performances in World Cup history. And yet, it still wasn't enough. After the dramatic penalty shootout, Argentina lifted the trophy. As celebrations erupted around him, Mbappe stood in silence. He had scored 3 goals in a World Cup final, won the Golden Boot, and produced a performance that would be remembered forever. But he was leaving without the one prize he wanted most. That image became unforgettable. A young superstar, holding an individual award while watching someone else celebrate the ultimate victory. It was a painful reminder that football can be both beautiful and brutally unfair. But sometimes, the greatest setbacks create the strongest determination. Instead of allowing heartbreak to define him, Mbappe chose to let it fuel him. The disappointment became motivation. The defeat became unfinished business. He had already shown the world what he could do under impossible pressure. Now, he had a new mission. Not simply to win again, but to return stronger than ever and finish the story that had slipped through his hands on the biggest night of all. That heartbreaking night in Qatar never truly disappeared. It became part of Kylian Mbappe's story, shaping every step that followed. While many players spend their careers chasing one unforgettable World Cup, Mbappe was already chasing something even greater, a legacy that could stand beside the greatest names the game has ever known. Today, every international tournament carries a different meaning for him. He's no longer the fearless teenager surprising the world. He's the leader others look toward when the pressure is highest. Every time France steps onto the pitch, millions expect their number 10 to produce another magical moment. But with greatness comes responsibility. Opponents spend months studying his game. Defenders build entire strategies around stopping him. Stadiums fall silent whenever he picks up the ball, because everyone knows something extraordinary could happen in the next few seconds. That's the burden of becoming a global superstar. The expectations are no longer about winning matches. They're about creating history. Every World Cup, every knockout game, and every decisive moment becomes another opportunity to define an entire generation of football. Yet Mbappe has never stopped embracing those moments. The same confidence that carried a young boy through the streets of Bondy still shines whenever the biggest stage calls his name. The difference is that now, The dream belongs to an entire nation. France doesn't simply hope he performs. They believe he will. And perhaps that's what separates the truly special players from everyone else. They don't run away from impossible expectations. As another World Cup journey unfolds, one question continues to follow him. Can Kylian Mbappé once again rise above the pressure, inspire his country, and add another unforgettable chapter to a career already filled with history? Only time can answer that. He has already achieved what most players can only imagine. A World Cup winner as a teenager. A World Cup Golden Boot winner. Countless trophies. Countless unforgettable moments. Yet somehow, his story still feels unfinished. Because true greatness isn't measured only by medals or statistics. It's measured by the courage to keep chasing more, even after reaching the top. There will be more victories. There will be more disappointments. There will be new rivals, new tournaments, and new opportunities to make history. That is the life of every legend. The journey never truly ends. Years from now, football fans may remember his incredible speed, his breathtaking goals, or the records he broke. But perhaps what they'll remember most is the fearless mindset that never disappeared, no matter how heavy the expectations became. The little boy who once looked up at posters of Cristiano Ronaldo grew into the player millions of children now dream of becoming. And somewhere, another young footballer is kicking a ball through the streets, believing that impossible dreams can come true, because Kylian Mbappé proved they can. His story is still being written. And if history has taught us anything, it's this. The greatest chapter may still be waiting.